going down! Down, down, down!
Oh, brother. And sister. The relationship between siblings is one that comes in all shapes and sizes, and that goes double for cartoons. For every pair of siblings who mean the world to each other, there are some who have more mixed feelings, and some that are downright awful. I'm Andrew with Wicked Binge, and this is Cartoon Sibling Relationships, Healthy to Toxic. As usual, we'll start with the healthiest relationships and work our way down to the most toxic ones. These are the healthy relationships. The only spooky thing about Danny and Jazz Fenton is how wholesome their relationship is. There's surely a lot of pressure that comes with a superhero who has to keep their work a secret from most of the world, so it helps to have people in your corner. For Danny, he has his older sister Jazz, who might be a bit overprotective of her little bro, but it comes from a place of genuine love. Jazz tries her best to keep Danny from getting into danger with her parents' ghost hunting antics. This does cause some issues between the two initially, but when Jazz eventually figures out that Danny is a half-ghost crime hero, she fully accepts him, becoming an integral part of his superhero work and acting as a sort of bodyguard/paparazzi shield in the future once Danny is famous. Jazz is everything you could possibly want in an older sibling, and being a good support system is pretty darn heroic on its own, so these two get the gold medal of health. The recipe for our next entry moves from half-ghost, half-human to half-sugar, half-spice, half-everything nice. Oh wait, that's three halves. Whatever, it's the Powerpuff Girls. Bubbles, Blossom, and Buttercup make up this iconic trio of 90s superheroes, and they're as tough as they are adorable. Equally tough and adorable is their bond. Despite some occasional bickering due to their differences, like Blossom's thoughtfulness compared to Buttercup's recklessness, they always come together to save the day. Regarding their high placement, it's also important to remember that these three are kindergartners, and that makes the fact that they have so little conflict with each other even more impressive, especially considering just how different they all are. You probably don't need us to tell you that our next entrants aren't related by blood. Finn and Jake are one of the strangest pairs of siblings we'll be discussing on our list. First and foremost, Finn is a regular human boy and Jake is a magical talking dog. There's also quite an age gap between them, being 12 and 28 respectively at the series beginning. This results in Jake acting as more of a father figure to Finn than anything else, but that doesn't mean Finn isn't reliable as well. The two are always looking after each other, like Finn trying to keep Jake from overstretching himself and Jake looking for a girlfriend to help Finn heal his heartache over Princess Bubblegum. They do unfortunately fight pretty often, hence why they aren't higher, but they're both loyal to the bitter end, and there's never any doubt that one has the other to lean on. You could say that while they might push and shove, it's just how they show their love. And you could also say that for our next entry, Lincoln Loud and his sisters. For obvious reasons, we could have potentially filled this whole list up with relationships from the Loud House, but we've only got so much time. But while there are technically a whopping 10 relationships just talking about Lincoln's, it's very telling just how high he lands on our list. Lincoln is a pretty great brother, especially considering he's still a kid. From cooking breakfast for his sisters, making special orders for all of them, to spending all his time doing what they want instead of his own activities, Lincoln is a surprisingly thoughtful and organized guy, and uses this to his advantage in helping manage his dysfunctional family. He is occasionally selfish, of course, being, 11 years old, but he always learns his lesson and comes through as an exceptionally good kid. Next up are four of the most iconic siblings around, the heroes in a half shell: Donatello, Leonardo, Michelangelo, and Raphael. These four are the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, who come out from the sewers to protect the streets of New York City from crime. Like any siblings, they tend to argue quite a bit, probably more so than any other characters we've discussed so far. Their personalities vary wildly. Donatello is a genius, Michelangelo is rather impulsive, Raphael has a short fuse, and Leonardo is the leader and the glue that holds it all together. But while these differences do lead to frequent disagreements, what keeps them squarely in the healthy category is that when push comes to shove, they're always there for each other. Things may come between them for a short time, but it never lasts for long. There's no doubt that at the end of the day, these four all have each other's backs, no matter which iteration of the series we're looking at. We now move into a new category of heroes: food service workers. Gene, Tina, and Louise of Bob's Burgers are up next. Tina is boy crazy and awkward, Gene is more or less a diet Chris Griffin, and Louise is a borderline supervillain in the making. But despite their wacky traits, these three are usually pretty friendly with each other. They spend a lot of time together and seem to get along just fine. But unfortunately, they aren't higher, mostly due to Louise, who often gets her older siblings roped into her mischievous and sometimes downright cruel schemes.
I think we have a bad connection. I'll call you back.
This results in there being a lot of trouble for the three here and there, and even a bit of friction. But aside from mischief and the usual sibling-esque annoyances, they're just fine, even if they are pretty weird. But if you thought the Belcher siblings were odd, you aren't ready for Gumball, Anais, and Darwin. Really, most of what we said about the Belchers can be said for the Wattersons too. They spent plenty of time together getting into trouble around Elmore, mostly due to Gumball. They have to lose some points for the fact that Anais repeatedly plotted to get her brothers killed during their earliest years, but things have mellowed out since then. And for all their squabbles, they've always looked out for each other, whether it's Anais showing concern for Gumball's supposed bully problem with Tina Rex, or Gumball and Darwin's extreme loyalty shown in just about every episode of the show, even though their relationship falters here and there. They're a great example of siblings who are best friends as well, and while there's a bit more conflict between these two and Anais, they're still looking out for her. They're a bit dysfunctional, but they love each other, and that's worth a lot. Rounding out the fully healthy relationships are quite possibly the cuddliest characters yet: Ice Bear, Grizz, and Panda. The titular Bear Bears from We Bare Bears have an interesting dynamic. Ice Bear is the laid-back, stoic family chef, Grizz is the ringleader and protector, and Panda is a weeb with a big heart. The three support each other immensely, and they do pretty much everything together, sticking together through thick and thin. That said, they aren't perfect, particularly in regards to Grizz, who often acts overly controlling due to his status as the leader of the pack. There's no denying they all love each other, and Grizz does use his controlling personality to protect his siblings, of course, but being overly controlling can be quite toxic in excess. In these three's case, it's not enough to keep them from having an overall sweet bond, but it knocks them down just a little bit. Now, these next relationships aren't quite toxic, but they aren't fully healthy either. These are the questionable relationships. Oh boy, we're about to have some trouble on our hands for this next entry. Dipper and Mabel from Gravity Falls are two of the most iconic animated siblings out there, and their relationship is admittedly pretty darn adorable. They're always there for each other, and they come through for each other.
Awkward sibling hug?
Awkward sibling hug.
That said, while they undeniably love one another, there's one issue that needs to be brought up, and that's Mabel's selfishness. Mabel's a very sweet girl and wants everyone around her to be happy, but she often avoids reality so she can stay in a world where everyone, especially her, is happy. On many occasions, she antagonizes Dipper for trying to help, or just doing what he wants to do. She's so devastated by the prospect of Dipper leaving her for an internship that she unwittingly releases Bill's cipher. Dipper often has to sacrifice his own wants to indulge Mabel, and while Mabel loves her, she seldom returns the favor. Still, there's very clear love and support between these two, which keeps them from falling any lower. When it comes to cartoon siblings, it doesn't get more iconic than Bart and Lisa Simpson. These two practically invented clashing opposite sibling dynamics. Bart is reckless, mischievous, and rebellious, whereas Lisa is an outspoken activist who's fully by the book. They're a mixed bag, constantly bickering with each other, mostly due to Bart's teasing, but they always come through for each other.
Lisa is stupid. You die now.
For every moment they fight like animals, there's another that shows that they truly care for each other. The classic episode Bart the General comes to mind, where Bart threatens to knock one of Nelson's goons' block off if he doesn't give back the cupcakes he stole from Lisa. If the Smith siblings are true neutral, these two are chaotic neutral. They knock each other down constantly, but they pick each other up just as often, making them perfect middle-of-the-road entries. Next up is perhaps the most conflicting entry on our entire list: Phineas, Ferb, and Candace. Phineas and Ferb themselves, despite their unfortunate placement on our list, have a very healthy relationship. They do everything together and pretty much never argue with each other. But then there's Candace and... oh boy. Her entire life revolves around trying to tattle on her brothers for their inventions. Now, there is cause to believe that they're endangering themselves with their wild creations, but Candace takes way more pleasure in the idea of getting her brothers busted than she places emphasis on protecting them.
Phineas and Ferb carved my face into Mount Rushmore!
Even with this being considered, all three of them do have some sweet moments, like the time they sang a song to the whole town to get Perry to come home. That one harmonized "Come Home" still hits hard. Up next, we have a newer gen pair of brothers, Bernard and Craig from Craig of the Creek. On the other end of Craig's fun and games with all his friends, there's his stuck-up older brother Bernard. These two's relationship really begins and ends with them not really having much in common, nor any real closeness. This is understandable given their age gap, and they do have their moments, like Bernard giving his "Bring Out Your Beast" cards to Craig, who's got an interest in his brother's former favorite game. They might not be too crazy about each other, but they certainly don't hate each other, and for teenage siblings, that's honestly not bad. It might be a tad shocking that these two don't fall into our next category, but rounding out the questionable relationships is Dexter and Dee Dee. While she's far from evil, Dee Dee is the most infamously annoying sibling on our list. Anyone familiar with Dexter's laboratory knows her tendency to always get past her genius little brother Security to play in his lab, despite his instructions to not touch anything. With how much chaos she causes, it's no wonder why Dexter has little patience for his older sister, though that doesn't justify just how far his anger can go, like the time he pawned her off on some aliens. Both of these two are flawed, but what keeps us from calling their relationship purely toxic is that there's genuine love between these two. Dexter has saved Dee Dee's life on a few occasions, and Dee Dee clearly adores her little brother, even if she doesn't always show it quite the right way. She might drive Dexter and the audience absolutely crazy, but Dee Dee and Dexter have redemptive factors in their relationship that keeps us from calling it a fully toxic one. And that, although just barely, is enough to keep them out of our third and final category. These are the toxic relationships. They might not be trying to destroy all of humanity. Okay, one of them isn't doing that, but Dib and Gaz Membrane are not exactly the healthiest pair of siblings. And honestly, it's mostly because of Gaz that they're in this section. Gaz has minimal sympathy for those around her, and this extends to her brother Dib too. Her bullying ranges from simple teasing to genuine full-on violence against the poor guy, even dating back to their early childhood. Any minor inconvenience Dib causes, she'll make sure he pays for tenfold, whether it's taking the last slice of pizza, or when she managed to fix Dib's spaceship and find him within mere seconds to beat him up after finding out he'd broken one of her toys in an experiment years ago. Dib isn't completely innocent himself, but he does seem to love and care for his little sis, genuinely enjoying her company and doing his best to protect her when it comes down to it. Gaz does have a few moments that suggest she at least kinda cares about Dib deep down, but they're few and far between, and usually are motivated by her own desires. Still, they've definitely shown growth, and that's more than we can say about pretty much any of the characters that follow. Humanity certainly gets more chaotic than the Membranes, after all. Just look at Meg, Chris, and Stewie from Family Guy. Honestly, Meg's treatment in the series is pretty much enough to land these three in the toxic section on its own. They might not bully Meg as much as Peter or even Lois, but Chris and Stewie are willing to go along with the gag. Meg isn't innocent either, though. One time, Meg and Chris accidentally knocked Stewie down the stairs, cracking his skull and exposing his brain, and hiding it rather than seeking medical attention.
Chris, did you put a coonskin cap on Stewie?
The only saving grace of these three is Chris, who's occasionally friendly with Meg and actually has a pretty close bond with Stewie, especially in the later seasons, and they seem to genuinely like each other. They're as dysfunctional as any of the other Griffins, but they could be a lot worse. Let's head from Spooner Street to the cul-de-sac to talk about our next pair, Sarah and Ed. Seriously, who didn't hate Sarah while watching this show? Ed is the biggest sweetheart in Ed, Edd and Eddy, and his little sister practically lives to bully and boss him around, threatening to tattle on him and the other kids. She takes great pleasure in tormenting them, especially the Eds, and uses her brother's low intelligence and intense devotion to her to practically make him her minion. It's one thing to have two siblings who both hate each other, but having one desperately wanting to show affection to another who wants nothing to do with it is just plain sad. Up next, we're talking about the most on-the-nose bully on the entire list, Brad and Kick from Kick Buttowski. Me and older brothers are a pretty common archetype, but Brad takes it to another level. He's more or less the main antagonist of the series, although on occasion they team up. He treats bullying Kick as a way of life, for seemingly no reason other than he finds it fun. He purposefully ruins Kick's stunts on a regular basis and constantly abuses the poor guy. The only saving grace between these two is that, on occasion, it's implied that they both enjoy fighting with each other, so there might be some level of unspoken agreement.
I like the way you think.
But that doesn't excuse how often Brad attacks and downright endangers his little brother for pure enjoyment. Given the nature of these next two, it's hard for us to even fathom that Amy and Sammy are anywhere but the very bottom of our list. These twins appeared as contestants on Total Drama Pakatu Island. That's unfortunate enough, but what makes it worse is how Amy treats her twin sister, even calling her Sammy despite it being pronounced and spelled as Sammy. Amy asserts herself as the superior twin, constantly bullying Sammy and even downright lying to get the rest of her teammates to hate her. Sammy isn't entirely innocent either, as she used an allergy attack preventing Amy from speaking to get her flung off the island in her place. We don't blame her on any level, but the fact is that there's no goodwill between these two. They never return after their simultaneous elimination, so it's sadly safe to assume things haven't gotten much better, but it always could be worse. If you're wondering how much worse, here's a hint. Zuko and Azula are only taking our second most toxic sibling spot. Knowing how dysfunctional the Royal Fire Kingdom family is, that's saying something. Since childhood, they've butted heads constantly, with Azula being the bending prodigy of the family and often lording it over him. At best, she shows basic concern for Zuko, not without insulting and demeaning him though. And at worst, she's directly trying to kill him when they're on opposing sides and blaming her own missteps on him to avoid any trouble when they're on the same side.
Maybe you could find a nice Earth Kingdom family to adopt you.
Like Zuko says, because Azula always lies. Attempting to murder your own brother is a one-way ticket to the toxic category. If we absolutely had to think of something to say in defense of their relationship, Zuko does seem to feel some level of compassion, or maybe pity, for Azula. And if Azula's breakdown at her defeat is any indication, she's just as scarred as him by their horrible father, even if not visibly. The gold level of toxicity goes to a pair with a toxic link who's a bit more level-headed, Starfire and Blackfire. As Starfire's older sister, she's the exact opposite of the kind-hearted Tamaranian heroine of the Teen Titans. First appearing in the episode Sisters, Blackfire feigns happiness at the prospect of reuniting with her sister, only to end up framing Starfire so she'll be arrested in her place by the authorities who are pursuing her. When Starfire defeats her, she vows revenge and takes things a step further. She later takes over an entire planet and plots to force Starfire to marry a hideous alien so she'll be granted a powerful jewel. This girl took over an entire planet just to force her sister to marry someone she absolutely hated. Blackfire is even worse when you consider her comic book origins, where it's revealed that she sold Starfire into slavery. Forcing an arranged marriage, attempting murder, framing, and selling her sister into slavery, what boxes doesn't Blackfire check off? She may be the darkest of all these characters, but we're still going to give her a nice, shiny gold medal of toxicity.